I really think this is the grand finale of America. Between now and the next presidential election, the decisions and actions that we take in the next few years, it's either we're gonna stay enslaved to Israel or we're gonna break our chains, and that is up to us. I really feel like this is the crucial time in American history, make or break. And remember, in history books, man, the good guys don't always win.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Rumble. Today we have Eric Warsaw, a longtime human rights advocate out there in the streets working for humanity. So thank you so much, Eric, for taking the time to join us today on the Daily Rumble.
Yeah, appreciate you very much, my friend.
So as we were talking before we came on, there's this big incident that just happened in Mexico. The cartel leader was taken out. There's a lot of back and forth as to whether or not how much the United States was involved in that. Both governments have said that the US was involved, but they won't elaborate. Maybe Delta forces were involved, maybe Navy SEALs, maybe some special forces, maybe just intelligence, but one third player out there that has definitely been involved is Israel. And we were talking just a little bit about some of the research that you've done on this. Kind of what are your thoughts on this? And if you look at the clips coming out of Jalisco, Mexico, the cartel there looks like a paramilitary. I mean, this is full on military grade stuff. I know they get a lot of weapons from the United States through straw purchases and stuff like that out of Texas. But some of the stuff they have, I mean, we're talking RPGs and stuff. You don't buy that at your local gun shop in Texas.
No, they're shockingly sophisticated. If you look at the first and foremost, it's absolutely crazy that these drug cartels have militaries. And if you look at the videos and pictures of them filming themselves, it's absurd. The quality of equipment, the quality of organization and everything. These guys have professional helmets, like everything is super professional. They look more professional than most national armies. And these are drug cartels. They have armored vehicles, and absolutely everything. It's kind of shocking. And for real, so as a retaliation for the assassination of one of their cartel bosses, they started like causing a just went and Grand Theft Auto all over Mexico, burning vehicles, burning down a Costco. And you know what? In a weird sort of way, man, I was a little bit jealous. I was like, dude, you know what? These people are going freaking crazy over a Mexican cartel boss, while we should have been doing the same thing for the Jeffrey Epstein list and everything else too. I mean, for real. I'm like, dude, why didn't we do that on like serious shit while they're doing that on a freaking drug boss? But it does turn out Israel was selling a lot of guns in Mexico. Now, of course, the vast majority of guns that go to Mexico come in like over like from America, more like from Texas and everything like that, because you can easily buy it over here and ship it over there. Now, the thing about Israel though is they get tons of tanks, tons of military equipment in general, and they will get that for free on American taxpayers' money. Then they go and they resell it to other bad actors, to rebel groups, to India. And so they're making a profit on these sales too, and making political military connections and having influence through this. So now we're paying for them to have more military influence and tons of profit at our expense. It is absolutely nuts. There's supposed to be oversight when we give them weapons. They're not supposed to be selling this stuff. But then I was checking with AI and like articles and everything like that. And it turns out we give them rules and regulations and they ignore them. Well, but they're on paper. I mean, but whatever. They do whatever they want. We allow it.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I did a story about a month ago that the United States is not allowed to sell the F-35 to whoever it wants without prior authorization of Israel. So, a little known fact, when we were developing the F-35, obviously we were going to give our greatest ally the F-35, so we created the F-35I. Well, that's like a slightly downgraded version. We want to keep the premier version for ourselves, and that really upset them. So they demanded, in order to even accept our charity, we had to allow them to participate in the helmet development and navigation system. So we allowed them to do that. Well, the second we allowed them to do that, they now own the patents on the F-35 and have veto power as to who we sell it to. So Donald Trump wanted to go ahead and sell it to Turkey, which was a reversal from the Biden era, and Israel vetoed it and said, "Nope, you can't sell it to them. We don't like Turkey." So we're not even a sovereign country when it comes to our own military equipment. It's absolutely insane.
And that's the general theme, is that this whole Zog empire, like if you look at BRICS, you look at the rival allies, you look at China, you look at Russia and Iran, North Korea, they treat themselves on an even playing field. Like, they treat themselves as equals and with all fairness, mutual benefit and everything. But when it comes to Zog, it's like the Zog alliance, you have Israel at the very top of the pyramid, and they tell people what to do, but not be told. Then below Israel is America. Below that is like NATO, and below that is like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and everything. But they have a pyramid structure of respect and following orders, and it's freaking ridiculous that America gets so bullied around by a tiny country on the other side of the world. And even with the Jeffrey Epstein list and everything, it's just absolutely absurd that. Imagine the airtight control that they have on our government just to prevent the Epstein list from coming out. I mean, you really have to control the FBI, the CIA, the media, the White House, Congress to prevent that list from. You have to have an airtight control. Because, I mean, just by natural inclinations, you don't want to protect a pedophile. You want to sneak that stuff out. That should have been dumped out on WikiLeaks a long time ago. I mean, so it's pretty amazing.
You had Epstein's lawyer basically just tell on himself, where he said that if Epstein had been Mossad, I could have just got him off scot free. And it's like, okay, so what you're saying is Mossad has a get out of jail free card with the United States. Like, that's insane. That's a crazy admission to try and put out there. A lot of
You're talking about
conspiracy
Alan
theories.
Dershowitz, right?
Yeah, yeah. Alan
Yeah, he was
Dershowitz.
also, remember, he's also not only defending Jeffrey Epstein as his lawyer, he's also his client. And he was accused of Virginia Roberts Giuffre of rape at least 3 times. He's an evil, bad character. I'm glad you brought him
Yeah.
up.
Do you think, because I honestly believe that he was working with Mossad, whether he was an asset of Mossad or actually Mossad himself, doesn't really matter. But I think the fact that Alan Dershowitz did say that is it's interesting to me because it makes me wonder, did he actually die in prison? And there's a lot of conspiracy theories about it. There's some AI pictures and stuff of him in Israel. We know that those are made up, but do you think that one, either they took him out of prison and flew him back to Israel and now he's in hiding, or they just killed him because he just knew too much? Because that is something that the Israeli military intelligence do. They kill their own to protect secrets. They have no problem with that.
All intelligence agencies will do that if absolutely need be. But at the same time, too, Jeffrey Epstein, like taking it from the perspective of Israel's Mossad. Like if I'm Israel's Mossad and I'm looking at the situation, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were their most successful spies in Israeli history. They entrapped so many politicians through bribery, blackmail of children, and all these other ways. They're kind of obligated. Like, dude, you kind of have to save the guy. So is it possible that, I mean, all right, how, if you're obligated to save and protect your spies, because if you protect your spies, then all your spies are going to work, double time for you. You do have an obligation, a moral and a business obligation to protect your spies. So with Jeffrey Epstein, the first thing they would want to do is like, all right, you got 2 options: get the guy out of prison or kill him. There's only 2 options. And if you were going to get him out of prison, how would you do it? You'd fake his death. That way, there's no questions, no nothing like that. Me personally, I would say it's most likely he is dead. I don't. There's no way he committed suicide. I really believe that was done. Just all the evidence and all the incentives. He was killed. But is it possible that they faked his death to move him out of the country? It's very likely. My personal opinion is that most likely he is dead, but it's quite possible that they did save him. I mean, I would not be surprised at all if it came out a couple years from now, like, dude, this is Jeffrey Epstein right here. I would not be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, we have midterm elections coming up. There's a lot of now talk about politicians who take APAC money and other, and it, the audience needs to remember APAC is the branded one, but there's 100 APACs out there, right? So you really have to dig deep into who is funding your candidate that you like. But for the first time in my adult life that I can ever remember, like, this is actually an issue for candidates. Like, they're actually having to address the money that they're taking. I think that shows huge progress that we've been able to make by putting the pressure on these politicians. But do you think after the midterms, do you think we'll even have the midterms, or will Trump try to do some shenanigans? Or even if we do have them, do you think things are going to change? Or are we just going to have the Randy Fines of Congress just continuing to control what happens there?
That is the $1,000,000 question, my friend. I myself have been personally saying I do not think we're voting our way out of this. I do not see them, hey, we lost an election, so we're just going to pack up and leave America alone. No, without America, Israel will fall within a half a year because we're the number one supplier of all their everything, their protection and everything. For midterm election, it's a huge political year because it's midterm elections, which is the second biggest election cycle in America next to presidential elections. However, it is also Israeli elections this year. Smotrich is up for re-election. Ben-Gvir is up for re-election. They're going to vote in a new Knesset. And then the Knesset, they do not directly vote for prime minister. They vote for the Knesset, and the Knesset votes for the prime minister. Benjamin Netanyahu is up for re-election indirectly this year. They will be deciding whether he stays in office or not this year. That's why he's given tons of pressure on Trump to put pressure on his own government to give him a pardon, because he's under a lot of corruption charges. He's been in power for 18 years. And like, dude, for real, Benjamin Netanyahu is not only just fighting for power, he's fighting for his life. Chances are, if he loses power, he'll end up in prison. He knows that. He's going to do whatever the hell it takes to stay in power over there and stay in power over here in America. I don't know what the hell they're going to do, but yes, AIPAC's endorsement is toxic, and they're looking to lose huge seats, but they can't just give up the country, man. So I think that me and you are on the same page. Something is going to happen where they're going to, at the very least, rig the elections if they allow them. I
Yeah.
mean, for real, they're not going to let this shit go. They
Yeah.
can't let
And
America go.
that's the real danger that we're facing. So, lastly, I wanted to ask you your thoughts on Iran, because it does look like we're only days away from a major strike on Iran, which could lead into a full-fledged war. The president of Iran basically said that at this point, if you start attacking us, we will start attacking U.S. bases, U.S. ships, and you can't stop our missiles. We already know you can't stop our missiles. We learned that 8 months ago. It will be devastating for you, but that could lead to you having an unstable government like we have now with Donald Trump, where he has his button or his finger on the button of the nuclear weapons. Netanyahu comes for the seventh time, and all of a sudden now we have the USS Gerald Ford heading to Persia. That's more armament than pretty much what we had in the first Gulf War, as far as air power, naval power, not troops on the ground power, but in that regard, we have more there. So it is, all the indicators are that this thing is about to blow up. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think it coincides with Netanyahu's seventh trip last week to the White House?
Where he was given the golden key.
Yeah.
Can you possibly think of a more symbolic thing to do than to get for the president of the United States to give Benjamin Netanyahu the key to the White House? Like, this is absurd. Absurd. I still are shocked when I seen that. But as far as an attack on Iran, we have the elections, the midterm elections in America, elections in Israel. What could possibly try to change things around? And then if we go to war with Iran, not only would it make elections beneficial for them, but also it gives them the excuse to do like what President Bush did. Oh, what was it called? He had some acts where he could basically suppress society a little bit more and monitor society a little bit more, because we were at war with Iraq, and then in September 11th and everything like that. I forget the name of it, but like, if we went to war with Iraq, it would be horrible for us, but beneficial for the politicians. And I do fear that a lot of people think that war with Iran and attacks on Iran are very, very imminent. I would say this year, but I doubt they would happen in the next few weeks, just because USS Ford is not there yet. and they're still dumping military. They've dumped about 6 or 7,000 new troops into the Middle East. They've dumped 50 new fighter jets, and they just gave Israel an extra $6.6 billion in arms and sold $9 billion in arms to Saudi Arabia. So it looks like they're ramping up, but I don't think all their chess pieces are in place yet for an actual attack. I think they're getting ready for one. I think they're definitely getting ready for one. Between now and elections, I think something major is going to happen. I don't know, man. Because anything is possible. Anything is possible. I would at least give it a few more months before they actually do anything, because this still seem like they're stockpiling.
And all of this, I mean, we have all this stuff happening, and it's supposed to be a ceasefire in Palestine, and yet every single day we see more bombs being dropped on Palestine. And I think that a lot of people have forgotten that, there's still a starvation, genocide, horrendous, attacks, murder, basically raping and pillaging of the Palestinians in Gaza, but not even just in Gaza. I mean, we see them ramping up attacks and military raids in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, in Lebanon. And then we have Mike Huckabee saying to Tucker Carlson, I don't care if Israel takes the entire Middle East, take it. Like, what is that?
That Jesus Christ, I seen that. I reposted on that. Mike Huckabee's response saying, basically promoting and defending the Greater Israel Project. Yeah, take over the whole Middle East. And then also Lindsey Graham's recent statements too. That is not their job. In a position like that, first of all, Mike Huckabee he's supposed to be the U.S. ambassador to Israel. He sounds like he's the Israeli ambassador to America, is what he sounds like. He
Exactly.
really needs to be replaced from his job, but you can't be using language like that, because you're threatening, I mean, not just Iran, you're threatening the entire Middle East. That is he's out of his mind for even saying stuff like that. Whatever they say in their roles is extremely careful and important, because you're also conveying what the intentions are of the United States. And that is not his freaking job. He is going outside of the intentions of what Donald Trump, the White House, or America even is saying. Like, he's going beyond that. So he's exceeding his role. That's
Yeah.
absurd.
And then you have Israel actually detaining Tucker Carlson and his crew and asking them specific questions as to what they talked about with the ambassador from the United States. That to me was an even bigger red flag. Like, how dare you detain a US citizen and then ask him to tell you what private conversation he had with an ambassador from the United States? Like,
From his own country.
from
Yeah,
his
dude,
own
this
country.
is it's getting beyond, it is beyond absurd. And in a way, this kind of works for us, because it's like a blatant, flagrant, hey, they rule over America. They bully us around, and there is no even pretend like America's a sovereign country. America is completely under the thumb of Israel, and they prove that more and more. I don't, anybody who's still brainwashed, I mean, they must not watch the news, but I mean, it is getting pretty ridiculous and absurd. And for anybody who's already woken up, it further solidifies, like, we're, you know, not only we control, but we're in some serious trouble. And where's this country headed? I really think this is the grand finale of America. Between now and the next presidential election, the decisions and actions that we take in the next few years, it's either we're gonna stay enslaved to Israel, or we're gonna break our chains, and that is up to us. I mean, I really feel like this is the crucial time in American history, make or break. And remember, in history books, man, the good guys don't always win. Look at Russia. When the Jewish Bolsheviks took over Russia, I mean, that was brutal suppression and oppression for decades, because they lost the war. And I hope to God we don't go that same direction in America.
I mean, just even having this conversation, we're going to get a lot of accusations of anti Semitism. And do you feel like you're anti Semite for talking about a foreign country's policies?
Me personally, this is the way I take that word, is I don't care anymore. Being called an anti-Semite is more of a badge of honor nowadays. To me, anti-Semitism is just a Zionist trope. It is a social construct, so they can just hit people with labels and never have to, like, rationally explain their actions. If someone looks at them, accuse it, whatever, you don't have to explain nothing. Just accuse the other person of anti-Semitism. I'm at the point, and most people in social, we don't care anymore. We just don't care. They've abused that word so much. They called freaking Miss Rachel, like the woman who did the YouTube stuff with kids. She was
Yeah.
one of the top 10 anti-Semites of the year. Like, dude, no, we don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. Go ahead, accuse us. I'll wear that. They call, that what was it? There was an Israeli news agency that called me an anti-Israel influencer, social media influencer. I reposted it. It was a brag on my X account. So I mean, we don't care. We don't care. It's better to be called an anti-Semite than be called a Zionist. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the boy who cried wolf too many times, right? Because there is racism in all ethnicities, all relate nations, all religions. Like there's some racism there, but in my opinion, I mean, when you're calling out a foreign government for its policies towards your government, how does that have anything to do with racism? Because first of all, you say it's anti-Semitic. Well, take DNA tests and prove that you're even Semitic. Because I have Semitic friends. They're Arabs. 100% they're Semitic. Okay. There's no doubt about it. They have all the features. They have the brown skin. I mean, they look like Jesus walking on earth right now. You can't be more Semitic than them. But then when I see these blonde hair, blue eyed Europeans from Poland and Russian and everything, and they're talking about they're Semitic, and I'm like, so are you Semitic by religion, Semitic by birth, or Semitic by imagination? Because I do know that there are people out there in the world who believe they are something other than what they are. So maybe that's a problem. Maybe in Tel Aviv they all think they're green aliens or something. I don't know. But I've gotten a lot of that pushback on my program. I know you've gotten a lot. And I agree. Like it's gotten to a point now where it's like if you call me anti-Semitic, I'm just like, okay. Like now it doesn't the word's lost its meaning to a point. But the problem is they're trying to pass laws now to where if they label you as an anti-Semite, you could even go to jail. You could get fined. Your business could be ruined. And I think that that's probably the biggest problem that we have right now is when someone says we don't control the media, we don't control the government, you're just anti-Semitic. And then they pass a law saying that you can't say that they control the media and they control the government or you'll go to jail. Doesn't that kind of prove the point that they control the media and the government?
The craziest thing about the Zionists is that they will do things right in front of your face. And if you accuse them of committing an act of genocide, killing people right in front of you, controlling the media, having power over our government, they'll look you dead in the face and accuse you of anti Semitism, say it's not true, even though you have it on video. Like, dude, APAC exists. They have a website. Israel has influence over our government. ADL actually exists. The Gaza Holocaust, the Gaza genocide, it was all caught on camera. I mean, and still, they'll look at you and be like, yeah, October 7th was the real genocide. Everything afterwards, that wasn't a genocide. Like, how are
I mean,
unbelievable.
by their own admissions, they came over with AKs and a few grenades, and then they tried to, show these images of these burned out cars and buildings and stuff. And it's like, if you know anything about warfare, an AK-47 doesn't do that to cars, but an Apache gunship, it absolutely will. Absolutely will. And so there's always that part of it where the oppressed and the occupied aren't allowed to fight back or it's bad, but the oppressor then becomes the victim. And that's the problem with Israeli society is they have internalized the victim model so much that it's part of their DNA now. Like all they know how to be is the eternal victim forever. The bigger problem, though, in my opinion, it's not even the Israelis or the Jewish Zionists. It's actually the Christian Zionists. Like that's a much bigger problem in the United States. And Mike Huckabee is a picture boy of Christian Zionism because they outnumber even the Jews. I mean, there's like 50, 60 million Christian Zionists in the United States pushing these policies that even, some Jews are just like, wow, you guys are extremists.
For Christian Zionism, first, I like to remind everybody always too that, like, just like in Islam, there's Shiite and there's Sunni. In Christianity, there's different groups too. There's the evangelicals, there's the Catholics, the Mormon. There's a whole bunch of different groups, and the Catholics underneath the Pope don't really suffer as much as the Christian evangelicals for Christian Zionism. This Pope and the past Pope have been very, very pro-Pally, anti-genocide, and so for the Christian evangelicals who are Christian Zionist, I've looked up the numbers. It's in the tens of millions. However, I really think that I think the numbers are heavily inflated anyway as a tactic in itself. And even was a Rush Limbaugh said that like polling data is more used to mold public opinion rather than reflect it. So tens of millions of Christian Zionists, I'm not even sure that most Christians even knew what a Zionist was 3 years ago. And right now, I think that, especially after Charlie Kirk, I've seen a big change. I think Christian Zionism has really, really kind of evaporated, not all of it, but a significant portion. There's still a lot of Christian Zionist leaders, but their flocks are very thin. The leaders get paid tons of money. So they're going to be always the leaders. I think it's wearing very, very thin because as soon as you go online, the decades of propaganda quickly evaporate when you watch the Israelis spit on Christians in the Holy Land. As they walk by the churches, they spit on the church doorstep. We see tons of footage. They hate us, and that is obvious. So I think the Christian Zionism thing is evaporating hard, and that's why they're overreacting and trying to send 1,000 pastors and everything to try to recorrect that course. But the Great Awakening is still continuing, and I think that they're very quickly coming over to our side and seeing the light. Truth is on our side.
And I think, like, on the flip side of Mike Huckabee, you got Tucker Carlson, who was very much a Christian Zionist at his time on Fox, and now he is an anti-Zionist. And I think, breaking free from the chains of Fox News and the producers over there, I want to believe that he's genuinely has woken up to this. And it's not just a personal vendetta because Fox threw him under the bus after they, created the monster that was Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson did a lot of damage, spreading a lot of false news and stuff like that, especially towards the Muslims and Muslim countries. But I think that guys like him, I've had other guys on my show, young, white, college age Christians who absolutely want nothing to do with Israel. So I agree. I think the problem with the Christian Zionism is more it's a generational gap. So like my father and grandfather's era, they're still all very much Christian Zionism. They're the chosen people and we have to support Israel. But then my era and below is like, no, we don't. We don't have to do that. That's not a real thing. So I
Basically,
really,
it's proportionate to the people that have internet access and use the internet.
yeah. I mean, because I remember I grew up in a Pentecostal evangelical church with my grandfather, and it was, Israel this, Israel that every single Sunday, right? And I never really understood it when I was growing up as a kid. And then later on in life, when I studied world religion and history, I started to realize that, all that is made up. Like there is no such thing as Christian Zionism. It is like it is a tool that the Zionist movement used in order to get the United States and England to back a nation state for and by Jews only, even if they're not religious Jews. Because, for example, Netanyahu's not even a religious Jew. He eats at non-kosher restaurants all the time. He doesn't observe Sabbath and all this other stuff. All the time we see him doing that. And he comes from an atheist family from Poland. So this guy's not even a religious Jew. So when they try to throw well, God promised it to us, but you don't even believe in God. So what are you even talking about?
Yeah, they keep code switching. Just how they define things keeps changing in ways that's not even rational, but just whatever benefits them in the moment. 100% for sure. They have this. Yeah, the whole Christian Zionism. I've heard a lot of this stuff too from Christian Zionists, especially when they say like Israel or the Jews are God's chosen people. Like a Christian should never say that because if anything, you shouldn't be holding another religion above yourself. Christians would be God's chosen people. My personal opinion is that God's chosen people is a merit-based system, not a birthright. Anybody who does right their entire life would be entitled to heaven and based on their deeds and not their but I mean it's weird to put another religion above yourself And that's exactly what these people preach. It's like, no, don't ever do that. At the very least, you should be promoting that Christians are God's chosen people. And second of all, I mean, the higher road is that everyone's God's chosen people based on their deeds. But I
You
mean,
know, the
that is absurd.
I think the biggest contradictory I ever seen in my life was growing up evangelical. I'm not evangelical anymore, but when I was growing up, I would see that preaching about God's chosen people all the time. But then at the same time, everybody in that church was racist against Jews. So it's like the biggest contradiction I had ever seen in my life is like you guys talk all this nonsense about Jews all the time, but then you talk about how they're God's chosen people and we have to support them. And, you know, it was even explained to me when I was younger that the reason we have to support them is because they are the vessel for Jesus to come back. And if they all get slaughtered, that's fine. We don't care. But we're not supporting them because we like them. We don't like them at all. We hate them. But we have to support him because Jesus needs to come back, and that's the only way he's going to come back. And I'm like, this is like fairy tale stuff. This does make no sense whatsoever.
And that's another thing too, is like what you just said, and also what Mike Huckabee said, that he was justifying like the conquering of the Middle East for Israel he was quoting the scripture. It's like, no, you don't get to quote, because then the other side gets to quote religion too on why. Just no, you don't mix politics and religion like that at all, because then it just kind of gets insane and detached from reality. And people should not be putting words in God's mouth. You know, you're quoting scriptures while somebody else can quote something else, because the Bible is so big. You can have a whole bunch of quotes to rationalize any political maneuver at all. And so it gets kind of ridiculous. Like, I completely keep religion out of politics at all to justify anything. And I mean, they do just get ridiculous with it. That should definitely be separated. Mike Huckabee needs to be replaced. He does not serve America in Israel. He serves Israel for America. I
And
mean, towards America.
it just goes to show because Donald Trump doesn't even like Mike Huckabee. He was put in place because Israel told Trump to put him there.
Man, you just touched upon something really big. Not just Mike Huckabee, but remember Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, Ted Cruz, a lot of these guys who now work and advocate. These were super anti-Trumpers just a few years ago. Trump hated them, they hated Trump, and now they're on. I really believe that Trump's White House was not picked by Trump. I think it was picked for Trump. And they picked people that they know they're only superficially loyal, and that they could be separated from Trump and used against Trump later on with their own leverage. I think Israel picked Trump's cabinet. I know it sounds a little bit much, but
100%.
with everything else, it's not that crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they've been picking cabinets as long as we can remember. Even Obama's chief of staff was a former IDF soldier, so that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. And Obama's even come out like, you know, later on he said that he wished he'd been more forceful on Palestine, but he just couldn't. But then he won't elaborate on that. Well, what do you mean you just couldn't? You were the president of the United States. Like you had
And he
the
still
authority and
hasn't
the
called it
power.
a genocide. Dude,
Yeah.
for real, Obama has been quiet the entire genocide, the entire freaking Holocaust. A shame on all of them. For Bush, Obama,
Biden.
Biden's not even home in his head. Like,
Yeah.
shame on all of them, Republicans
Yeah.
and Democrats, because it took both sides to do all this stuff too. So shame on all
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. And we get that a lot too, where people say, oh, well, you're a liberal or you're this or you're that or you're pro Biden. It's like, no, man, I'm pro humanity. Like when I see women and children being blown to pieces and I see IDF soldiers bragging about how they doing these horrible atrocities to women and children for fun. Yeah, I'm gonna stand against that. Like, that's just not a good thing. It's not something that anybody should stand for, and it doesn't matter who the president is. I actually was hopeful that when Donald Trump came into office, that he would do something different. Obviously, my hopes were pretty much squashed on day one, but you always want to hold out hope every time there's a new administration that something will change, and it's unfortunate that it just doesn't change. And now we have an administration that not only it hasn't changed for the better, it's changed for the worse because this dude is just breaking every law known to man that he possibly can. So it's a very difficult situation. Do you see any light at the end of the day for the Palestinians? Because they're the biggest victim of all of this because they don't even have a way to defend themselves.
Well, I mean, I repeat myself on, like, good guys don't always win. So is it going to turn out good for the Palestinians, or is it going to turn out worse? I mean, that depends. That depends if we win or not. And I think the main battle is here in America. I think that the backbone of the Zog Empire, because they control all these countries. They have an excessive degree of influence on Egypt, Saudi Arabia, England, Germany, Australia, soon to be Venezuela, all these different countries. But the number one country that they really rely on for their security, for their funding, for their military supplies is America. So I think the main battle, like the belly of the beast, is right here. And so I think the fate of the Palestinians will fall on us. And because who else is going to freaking do anything? I mean, anything could happen. Anything could happen. Yemen's been trying to rise up and this and that, but that's being checked with the creation of Somaliland. Just so anything could happen, but it looks as if the main battleground will be here in America for the fate of the whole Zionist empire and the fate of Palestine.
Heavy conversation. Appreciate you being here, Eric, and all the work that you've been doing. You're a stalwart out there. We need more guys like you out there doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work, brother, and definitely going to have you back on the show again.
Anytime, man. You got my number. Hit me up whenever you want, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody, for following. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share and like, and comment down below. Help us get the message out. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.